To the fourth meeting of the World Radio Communication Advisory Committee. Welcome to the members of the committee and the working groups and the public. Special thanks, of course, as always, to the members of the working group who are devoting lots of energy and resources to this very important process, particularly as we look to strengthen U.S. positions moving into the CETEL meeting next month, end of next month in Colombia. Happy to report that because of the advisory committee's activities, we have our first draft inter-American proposal to WRC-19. And should also note that we are now less than 2 years away from WRC-19 itself. October 28th, 2019 is when it will open up, and so that will be here sooner than we think. Before we move ahead, we also want to welcome Commissioner Mike O'Reilly, who's joining us this morning. As you all know, Commissioner O'Reilly has been expressed great interest in issues of spectrum allocation and ITU governance and all of the activities that are keeping us very busy. And so before we move ahead, let me introduce Commissioner O'Reilly for some opening remarks.
Well, thank you so very much, Tom, and thanks everyone for being here on a cold, just Lisa's drying out a little bit. What a weekend, huh? I want to thank everyone for all of their arduous work to date and the work to come. It's been quite an interesting time. I've done some of your conference calls, and I appreciate you letting me be on them. Your absolute love of acronyms and the procedural document references was duly noted. I realize that not everyone agrees with every component of each preliminary review or particular proposal that's been adopted or will be considered today and in the future. I want to thank you for your willingness to compromise on some of those and know that that spirit is going to be needed going forward. Since our last meeting in April, a lot's been accomplished by this advisory committee and more work to be done today. Looking back on some of our activity, I think there were many surprise faces to see an FCC commissioner in Orlando at CETEL. From my perspective, it was a very successful meeting to let the region and the rest of the world know that the FCC sees this as a very important issue and is fully engaged on WRC-19 and expects to have successful outcomes. At the same time, I will continue to discuss the need to reform and fix the ITU so to stay focused on its core mission and not dilly-dally into other areas that cause heartburn and problem for our needs. The United States will not sit by idle as consumers' demands increases exponentially for wireless services. So I am working with my schedule to try to be able to join you at the next appropriate meeting, whether it be in November or February, and I'm certainly looking to make the 2019 meeting, which I understand from Tom's words is going to be in just less than 2 years. So I thank you so much for being here and all the work that you've done, and I look forward to success in the months ahead. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Commissioner O'Reilly. It's great to have reinforcement coming from the 8th floor for all the work that all of you have been doing. This morning we'll have 3 new preliminary views and 6 proposals, as well as comments on the documents from the IRAC's Radio Conference Subcommittee. There are 2 of the proposals that are up for consideration today are the View A, View B type of proposal, meaning that the members of the working group were not able to come to consensus. Not unprecedented, and we have a lot of hard issues and a lot of complexities to address here, but I would urge members of the other working groups that you don't necessarily have to follow that as the model. Obviously, the goal is to reach consensus here because that is the best way to strengthen the U.S. positions going into the conference in 2019. With that, I'll turn to my vice chair for any opening comments.
No, I'm good. Thanks, Tom.
Very good. And just one more reminder, as we get into this, you will obviously have opportunities to speak. If you do take advantage of that, just be sure to identify yourself and who you represent. With that, we will turn to the agenda for this morning, which is document 37. I'll ask if there are any questions or concerns about the agenda. And hearing none, we will deem that approved. And then turning to the minutes of the previous meeting, that is document 36. Any questions or comments on the minutes from the previous meeting? None. We will deem that approved. And Chris, I'll turn it to you.
Thanks, Tom. At this time, I'd like to invite Charles Glass, if he's here, or Amy from NTIA to present on the IRAC's any updates from the IRAC process.
Thank you, Chris. The RCS has one preliminary view on agenda item 1.7, which is in your document WAC 38. And we understand it has been provided to the WAC and that you have a revision to consider from the IWG3 in WAC 44. We look forward to working with whatever the WAC approves and working toward a common agreement. Thank you.
Thank you, Amy. Yes, that document has been submitted to the appropriate informal working group and will be up for consideration. Any comments on that document? Okay, thank you. Moving on, IWG 1, Maritime, Aeronautical, and Radar Services. The chair is Joe Kramer. I'd ask him to present the report on IWG1 activities.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. IWG1, we met 3 times since the last meeting in April. The focus of the meeting was revolving around agenda item 1.8. This agenda item's purpose is to consider possible regulatory actions to support modernizing the Global Maritime Distress and Safety System, GMDSS. There's a fun acronym for everybody. And to consider whether to allow additional satellite systems to provide such service in accordance with I2R Resolution 359. You can look that up on the internet. This issue generated some pretty good discussions within IWG1, and as a result, we have before you, before the WAC, 2 views on the proposal, and they are contained in document 39. This is the only topic we have for the WAC to consider at this meeting. And when you wish, I can introduce the views document and talk about it.
All right. Any comments on the report? Okay, let's proceed to the document then. Thanks, Joe.
Great, thank you. As already mentioned, IWG1 members were not able to reach consensus on the proposal for agenda item 1.8. The differences can be summarized as follows. The modification, and there is a modification proposal in both documents, of footnote 5.368. View A provides that Article 4.10 will apply to the Aeronautical Mobile Satellite Route Service, a safety service. And View A also has a different frequency range, 1610 to 1626.5 megahertz generally, within the overall band. View B is limited to the GMDSS, Global Maritime Distress and Safety System, and has Article 4.10 applicable only in the frequency range 1618.725 to 1626.5 megahertz. In addition, the proposals regarding Article 15, Table 15.2, it's very difficult. There's a minor difference in that View A provides for GMDSS priority over non-safety communications within a satellite system, while View B provides for priority within the satellite system providing that such GMDSS communications. That's the difference. You can decide if that's a big difference or not. Just so for the record here, View A is supported by Iridium, Aviation Spectrum Resources, Inc., the Boeing Company, Harris Wiltshire and Grannis, LLP, Jansky Barnett, Telecommunications, and Access Partnership. While View B is supported by Inmarsat, Legato Networks, and Globalstar. And I offer these views for your consideration.
Okay, thank you, Joe. At this point, I'd like to ask if there are any comments on the document. Okay, thank you. Is there any objection to approving the document as is? All right, thank you. Approved.
Okay.
We'll move to Informal Working Group 2, Terrestrial Services, and I'll ask Trish Paletta, the Vice Chair, to present the report.
Thank you. Good morning, everyone. I am the vice chair of IWG2, so I'm filling in for Jane Stankovich. So if there's any gap of information, you can take that up with her or with our able representatives here on the panel. So we had kind of one of each in IWG2. We have a preliminary view, we have a proposal, and we also have split views, view A's and B's on a proposal. But we'll start off positive. In 9.1.1, that is the agenda item that is looking at studying coexistence and compatibility between the terrestrial component of IMT in the mobile service and the satellite component of IMT in the mobile service in the 2 gigahertz band, and that's specifically 1980 to 2010 megahertz paired with 2170 to 22 megahertz. And IWG2 was able to come to a draft preliminary view for WEC's consideration, and that would be that the U.S. preliminary view would be to support studies under 9.1.1 in accordance with Resolution 212 with the objective of ensuring compatible operations of both the terrestrial and satellite components of IMT without undue constraints on either service. And again, in that 2 gigahertz frequency range I listed. The next item we had from IWG2, also consensus, was on a proposal for 9.1.2, and that is dealing with the L band, and specifically that's 1452 to 1492. And the agenda item, which is only relative to Region 1 and 3, so for our commissioner knows this, but Europe, Middle East, the Arab states and Africa, Region 1, Region 3, Asia. The agenda item is to do technical studies ensuring the compatibility of IMT and BSS sound in that frequency band, or L band, taking into account both of those services requirements. And the proposal from the U.S. would be that we would recommend to the WEC for adoption is no change for Region 2, because, again, this agenda item only deals with Regions 1 and 3. Our final item that we spent probably the bulk of our time at IWG2 on this since the last WEC was on issue 9.1.5, and that regards the question of whether the references to recommendations ITUR M.1638 and ITUR M.1849, which deal with radars operating in the 5 gigahertz band, should be updated in 2 different footnotes, footnote 5.447F and footnote 5.45A of the radio regs, taking into account the fact that the RLANs are identified for that band. We had a lot of discussions on this item. We had lots of offlines, but in the end, we could not come to an agreement in IWG2, despite the strong efforts of Scott Kotler. We'll give him a shout out. He worked very hard in trying to bring the views together, and I don't see the author of the other view, but we were not able to come together on this. So we have 2 views, and view A is to not reference the updated recommendations, 1638 and 1849 in those 2 footnotes, 5.447F and 5.450A. Did you get those, Commissioner? Okay. So don't reference those updated recommendations in the footnotes because of the detrimental effect on RLANs. View B, authored by Scott Cutler, would be to actually reference the updated recommendations given and do ongoing studies on the impact. So we have 2 different views. View A was supported by, got to find my list, Cisco, Facebook, Hewlett-Packard, Harris-Wilcher-Granis, Intel Corp, Microsoft, NCTA, Samsung, and the Wi-Fi Alliance. And there may have been others that had contacted our WAC director. And view B, the suspense is going to be exciting, right? Let's see. Where's view B? Do you have that hand here? Okay. View B is supported by the Aerospace Industries Association, Aviation Spectrum Resources, Lockheed Martin, New Wave Spectrum Partners, the Boeing Company, and Yagomi. Now do I ask if anybody has comments or?
Great. We'll take these documents one by one. So the first one is document 40, which is the preliminary review for issue 9.1.1. Any comments or objections to that preliminary view? None, so that is approved. The next item is document 41, and that is the proposal for issue 9.1.2. Any comments or objections there? None. Very good. And then the third item, document 42, which is the view A and view B on issue 9.1.5. Any comments or objections there? There are none. Very well. Thank you, Trish.
Thank you.
Okay, this time I'd like to invite Jack Wengerneck to come up and give the report on IWG-3 Space Services.
Okay, so good morning, everyone. So IWG-3 has met 3 times since the last WAC meeting, and we were able to produce for this meeting 2 proposed revisions to previously identified RCS preliminary views and 1 draft proposal. So the first document is on agenda item 1.3, and this is actually a preliminary view from the RCS that has been around for quite a while. And we spent a good amount of time discussing this issue. As you look through the proposed revisions, you see the movement of a 1 paragraph to a little bit earlier in the document. You see a recognition of IMT that is identified in part of the band. And then on the second page, you see a good amount of proposed additional text, really just to sensitize the reader to some of the other services that could be potentially impacted by any upgrade to the EES allocation. These are alarm services and various public safety dispatch services. So really it was just to help the reader have a fuller appreciation of any potential impact. And then there also is some discussion of this proposed protection level, the minus 152 dBW per meter squared per 4 kilohertz, and a suggestion that should studies lead to a requirement for a more stringent level, that should be considered in any discussions at the WRC. So with that, I offer this document for your consideration.
Any comments? Okay, approved.
Okay, the second one is on agenda item 1.7, the spectrum needs for telemetry tracking and control for non-GSO satellites with short duration missions. And here we just really had some very minor suggested edits to the document, just to clarify one particular point, frequency bands below 1 gigahertz, and then really the others are just what I would consider almost editorials, but we do believe that they improved the document, so they're fairly minor. So with that, I offer that document for your consideration.
Comments from the floor? Approved.
Okay, and then finally, we have a draft proposal on agenda item 9.1, issue 9.1.3. This is the potential for opening up what I'll call the C-band for new non-geostationary satellite orbit systems. We recognize that at CTEL there actually is a preliminary draft CTEL IAP on this. I think it was supported by Canada and Brazil, as I recall, which essentially is advocating no change, and IWG-3 wanted to align itself with that, and so this is our way of essentially proposing that the U.S. join that or align itself with that CTEL proposal. So it's no change to Article 21, no change to Article 22, and the suppression of Resolution 157, which was associated with this agenda item. So again, I offer that for your consideration.
Any comments on WAC document 45? Thank you. Approved.
Okay, and that's it for IWG 3. Thank you.
Thank you,
Jack. We'll move to Working Group 4, and the chair of the Working Group, Jennifer Manor, will present the report.
Good morning, everyone. And we've had a productive 4 meetings since the last WAC, and we have 2 documents to move forward on, focused on Agenda Item 7 and Resolution 86, and facilitating the use, the most efficient use of the radio frequency spectrum, and of course the orbital resource as well. So I have 2 documents, 2 draft proposals to present today, if that's okay.
Please.
The first is with regard to Agenda Item 7, Issue E, harmonization of radio regulation Appendix 30B with Appendices 30 and 30A, and the group has reached consensus on a no change proposal for Region 2.
Any comments on document 46, the proposal for Agenda Item 7, Issue E? Hearing none, that's approved.
And the second item is regard to Agenda Item 7, Issue G, which is updating the reference situation for networks under Appendices 30 and 30A when provisional recording is used. And once again, it's a no change proposal for Region 2.
Any comments on document 47? That's approved.
Thank you.
Thank you, Jennifer. That ends our working group presentations. A couple more things to note. Document 4 is the WRC-19 preparatory timeline, and that gives you the timeline of upcoming ITUR meetings and WRC-19 preparatory efforts. So please take note of that. Yes.
But if I could just for the group, last Friday afternoon, we had a study group 4 meeting in Geneva, and it was agreed to change the start date of Working Party 4A meeting from February 21st to the afternoon of February 20th. So just public service announcement. Thank you.
Great. Thank you for that. The next meeting of this advisory committee will be Monday, April 23rd, 2018. We'll note that our agenda for this meeting suggested that the next meeting will be Monday, April 23rd, 2017. We'd all like more time, but we really can't do it that way. So please note April 23rd, 2018. We will have 2 more WAC meetings before the CTEL limit meeting, so obviously we'll expect to see a lot more proposals at these next 2 meetings. Chris?
Any other comments from the floor in other business? All right, seeing none, I'm going to turn it over to Mike.
Thank you, Chris. I have 2 announcements to make. First, if I can invite Donna Christensen up. So as some of you may notice, Donna is not at the head table anymore. She's out in the cheap seats. First, I'd like to welcome Ron Marcello, who is in the International Bureau's front office. He'll be stepping in to help us cover all of Donna's work in assisting us with the WRC process. And if you have any questions, please do not hesitate to reach out to Ron. He's picking up everything quite quickly. Second, Ron has some big shoes to fill. Donna has been a steadfast leader, both in the WAC, keeping us on par with the Federal Advisory Commission Act, and being the lead member of our FCC's home team efforts. While many of us have been in Geneva, she's been helping assist send information up to the 8th floor to give them updates of each of our activities while we're traveling around the world pushing U.S. proposals and positions. She has been one of the most dependable, efficient, calm, friendly federal employees that I have ever had the pleasure of working with. I know many of you who have done WRCs a lot longer than I have been working with Donna for even longer and have had even more pleasant experiences than I have. Donna has taken advantage of an early retirement to leave the FCC after over 20 years of government service. And to thank her with a small token of our affection, we have a small plaque noting you as a special government employee to Donna Christensen for your efforts of tireless effort, friendship, and honorable service with the FCC. So please join me in thanking Donna.
Well-deserved, I might add. I worked a lot with Donna when I was here at the commission. She will be missed, but Ron, good luck. With that, any other comments from the floor? Okay, thank you for coming today. I don't know if we broke our record, but
I don't think so.
okay. The ceremony kind of put us over, but thank you, and we'll see you next time.